From mighty warships to undetectable nuclear submarines, it has an uncompromised global reach. All these modern naval warships have one thing in common: a frame and hull of metal. The effective use of metal was first realized with ironclad ships during the Civil War.
Civil War ironclads sort of made the molds from which every military vessel from then on was cast.
Deploying conventional wooden warships of the time, the primary strategy of the Union was to create a complete naval blockade of the southern states. It was called the Anaconda Plan.
Like the beast that it's named after, the anaconda, of course, strangles its prey. And that was the idea that the Union had, was to strangle the Confederacy by blockading her ports. The Confederacy's answer to the Anaconda Plan was one word: ironclads.
In 1861, the Confederates raised the Merrimac, a sunken Union ship, and attached armor plating, creating one of the first ironclad ships. The vessel was renamed the CSS Virginia. It was an enormous warship, 262 feet in length, with a beam of 51 feet, weighing 3,200 tons. It was protected by 4 inches of iron plating, and with a top speed of 8 knots, it took the Virginia half an hour to make a 180-degree turn.
And so the Virginia becomes kind of a hybrid ship. She's not a sailing vessel, but she's not going to be too far away from the technology that came before her, in that she was still going to have to fight broadside.
While the South was busy turning the Merrimac into the Virginia, the North found out about the top-secret project through spies. So the Union built its own secret weapon, the ironclad Monitor. John Ericsson, a Swedish designer, conceived and designed the novel steam-powered warship.
It was an incredibly brilliant design. It broke the bonds of the conventional ship design.
The Monitor was smaller than the Virginia, with a length of 173 feet, with a beam of 41 feet, weighing 987 tons. Its top speed was 8 knots. 8 inches of armor protected the innovative gun turret, which used 2 steam-powered engines to revolve 360 degrees.
In that it allowed a relatively small vessel with a relatively few number of guns, in this case 2. It could bring both guns to bear at a target at any angle to the vessel.
In the first confrontation between 2 ironclads, the Monitor met the Virginia at Hampton Roads Harbor, off the state of Virginia, in 1862. The Confederate vessel was already at battle, having crippled or sunk several Union wooden naval vessels, when the Monitor entered the scene.
When the Virginia encounters the Monitor, the Virginia seems to have the advantage. She has 10 guns to the Monitor's 2. However, the Monitor has something that no other ship in the world at that time had: a revolving gun turret.
The Monitor was hit 22 times, and the Virginia 20 by cannon fire during their 4-hour battle. However, neither vessel achieved a clear victory, since all the shells bounced off the armor. In the end, the battle was a draw, with each side believing it had won. The 2 ironclads never fought again. However, the real victory went to a future of iron and steel warships.
A new technology had overcome naval weapons, and thereafter, woe befall any nation that continued to build wooden frigates, because the ironclads were now here.
Although never sunk in battle, the Monitor was lost during a storm on New Year's Eve in 1862. More than 100 years later, in 1973, the Monitor was discovered in 240 feet of water, 16 miles off the coast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. Through painstaking effort, parts of the vessel have been raised, including the famous revolving turret. The prized artifact was taken to the Mariners Museum in Newport News, Virginia, where it rests today. It's housed in an enormous tank, containing a solution which will gradually remove the salt that has accumulated during almost a century and a half on the ocean floor. However, on this rare occasion, the Mariners Museum has agreed to empty the tank for modern marvels, so that we may take our cameras inside this revolutionary historic monument. The process takes hours, but eventually we set eyes on a true technological wonder. When the monitor sank, it turned and rested on the bottom upside down. So to preserve its fragile state, the turret remains inverted in the tank.
Monitor's turret is a truly unique place. We are one of the few people to be inside of it since it sank in 1862. This is the device, if you would, that revolutionized naval warfare. During the course of the battle with the CSS Virginia, the Monitor's turret was hit many times by her artillery, including this potentially devastating hit, which distorted all 8 layers of the armor and did not break through. Here are the Monitor's 2 gun ports. These were the openings in the turret for the guns to fire out of. And when the guns weren't firing out of them, they became weak spots in the turret's armor. So to make up for that, they had these large port stoppers.
As each of the Monitor's cannons fired, it recoiled backwards and was loaded from the muzzle. This left an open port. To protect the crew from enemy fire, a 1,200-pound wrought iron block was moved into place by a system of pulleys. Each time a gun fired, the port stopper swung into place to cover the open hole.
During the battle, there were 21 men inside here, plus the 2 guns. It was dark, it was smoky, it must have been hellishly loud. The enemy fire clanging off the outside of the turret. The guns themselves roaring and leaping. They were stretching the technology of the time to build this, and it proved to be quite successful. The modern warship was born in the turret of the USS Monitor in the year 1862.
Whether on sea or land, transportation of troops and supplies is a centerpiece to any military battle plan. Civil War commanders realized this all too well and depended on new technology that accelerated transport strategy beyond any previous wartime conventions. The USS Monitor was the first naval vessel to have a below-the-waterline flush toilet.